Okay, should we do this? Yeah. Fantastic. So it's great to be with all of you today, and thank you to everyone that worked on this event. I know how much goes on both in front and behind the scenes, so we appreciate all your efforts. Today I'm here with 4 women who are shattering society's standards and opening our minds in the fields of art, beauty, culture, and fashion through the power of representation. I'm Piera Gelardi. I'm the Executive Creative Director and co-founder of Refinery 29, and I would love to just kick off with each of you introducing yourselves and telling us a little bit about your story.
Hi, everyone. My name is Whembley Sewell. I am the executive editor of Them, which is Condé Nast LGBTQ publication.
Hello, my name is Lauren Wasser. I'm known as the girl with the golden legs.
Hi, I'm Katie Sturino. I'm the founder of Megababe. We make women's comfort products.
Hi, my name is Rujeko Hockley, and I'm an assistant curator at the Whitney Museum, just down the street.
Each of you are known for your work in uplifting underrepresented voices and challenging stereotypes. I would love to hear how you hope that your work will continue to create a more equitable future for all.
You want me to start? Should we just go,
we'll just go down the line.
Well, I think something that I've noticed is the way you walk into a room literally defines kind of the work you do. So I think when you talk about equity, I think doing work through the lens of being a Black, queer young woman just changes my lens on how I create, how my team creates, and I think that just inherently, organically, and also really intimately, the work just naturally reflects that. So I think when you bring people into the room who look different, who have different values, who have amazing, amazing ideas just because of how they move through the world, that's innately creating equity. So yeah, that's my take on it.
Love that.
I'm sorry, what was it?
Oh, the question is just about, through your work of really opening the lens of representation, how you're looking to make an impact through that.
For me personally, I feel like I definitely am creating my own lane that definitely doesn't exist, especially maybe in the world, but also in the fashion world, a world that I never thought would accept me again at all. So I'm kind of trying to change people's perspectives, change what the norm is and the stigmas are, and bring a new sense of beauty to a world that is missing something like myself. And hopefully being able to set an example for young women, young girls, young boys, whoever's fighting something in their life to know that they can be anything they want in the world. They just gotta fight hard and work hard and they'll get there, so.
I'm trying to let people know that big girls like fashion too. And I do something called Make My Size, where I put on the largest size that a designer makes, and I show them just how far away they are from being able to dress me. And I did this with a DVF skirt about a year and a half ago, and in October, DVF launched their first capsule collection for plus-size clothing, which was so amazing to see because I know that there are women all over the world who have always wanted to wear something like that and haven't been able to. So applause for you. And I'm just trying to make women of all shapes and sizes feel like they can participate in the fashion conversation.
I think that I think about equity in terms of myself and people that look like me in the museum space, both staff who's on the walls, but also who comes to the museum. And I think what I am most, committed to in terms of equity is thinking how we can create spaces that people feel comfortable coming to. Because if I work at a museum, I'm obviously displaying some sort of interest in art or whatever, natural history, et cetera. If you are on the walls, you're already kind of bought into the world a little bit, but the people who walk in off the street, who may not have ever gone to a museum before, who may not have ever thought that a museum was for them, whether that be because of their economic status, their racial status, their gender, their age, any number of criteria that may not make them feel that they're the ideal visitor. I want them to feel like, actually, no, this is for you. This is literally for you. I made it for you. So that's kind of what I think about in all the work that I do, is someone like me feeling like it was for them.
Whembley, I want to ask this question to you. So safe spaces are so important for marginalized groups, not only to further support representation, but also to build community and support system. So can you tell us a little bit about how you're creating that support system with them, and particularly for Black trans youth, which is some of the most vulnerable within the community?
Absolutely. I think one of the really amazing and exciting things about working at them is that we think of it as a social first, community-based platform, meaning really at the heart and the core of everything that we're doing for the LGBTQ community is sourced by people like us. We're looking on social media for real, true, heartfelt, personal stories to build what our title represents. So when you're taking grassroots stories that are, again, so personal, and also just, I think, really positive and progressive, you are creating a space and a safe space. I think it's amazing because traditionally that hasn't been the case. I think when you look at the history of magazines and everything like that, I don't think a few years ago someone like me necessarily would have been in this position. And I don't think that the work that I do is all about me and my lens and what I think the publication should be. It is for primarily queer youth, and what's been amazing is seeing how they really represent what I think of as the forefront of culture. Because when you look at queer youth, Black trans queer youth, they know what the coolest music is. They have the best taste in clothing, They know what the trends are. So I think to give them a platform where they're the ones who are celebrated and they're teaching us what culture is on their terms, and we can see that reflected back to us, they're the ones who are making the world a more beautiful, better place. And we have the power and the privilege of giving them the space to do that. So I love, what I do every day in creating that space for them.
I know. I was pausing for applause.
I was boss right there.
When I pause, there's a little blinking light up there that says applaud.
Blushing.
Rujeko, the 2019 Whitney Biennial was the most diverse in the museum's history, with the majority being people of color and half identifying as women. Can you tell us a little bit about the process of co-curating that show and what you learned in the process that perhaps people in the audience might adopt in some of their practices?
Yeah, the biennial is something that happens every 2 years at the Whitney. It's kind of every time it's new, but it's also the kind of longest running exhibition of its kind in the United States. So the kind of idea of taking the pulse of American art every 2 years. So myself and Jane Panetta, my co-curator, spent 2 years building the show, which then was up for, however many months. And I think the question of the kind of racial, ethnic, gender composition of the show is one, it was a no-brainer. And I think the reason it was a no-brainer is because not that we wanted it to be the most anything X diversity of all time, but we do the work that we do. And I think certainly for myself, if you kind of look at all the exhibitions that I've done at the Whitney, as well as at the Brooklyn Museum, as well as at the Studio Museum where I worked previously, the thread is continuous. And so it's the biennial that I would have made. And I have to assume that my bosses, that they knew that, and that they invited us specifically to be the ones to do this biennial because they, on some level, wanted that and felt that that was important. Something that I think we really learned, if you're not hot on the art press, there was a lot of controversy surrounding this biennial. There's often a lot of controversy surrounding about the biennial for reasons I cannot fathom. But something that I really learned was when you were kind of in the middle of a firestorm, and I don't even mean like controversy or people are talking about you, but just when like the world is swirling, to be still, and to kind of trust in the people and the ideas that you've put out into the world. So in this case, that meant trust in the show we did, trust in the artists that we selected, trust in ourselves, trust in each other, and kind of stay the course.
I think that's a testament to, who's behind the lens, who's behind the scenes of the work that you're creating, and thinking about that, really intentionally, because, that just makes it much more organic to your point as well. Lauren, can you tell us a little bit more about the Robin Danielson Act and what it's been like to fight this legislative body, and sort of how your work has led you to this place where you're entering the world of policy?
Yes, I'm actually working with. Tell my story. Okay, for many of you guys that don't know, I got toxic shock syndrome when I was 24 years old by using a tampon and changing it just like every one of us in this room do normally. And I had flu-like symptoms, and it turned out I literally almost lost my life. I had a 1% chance of survival. It's basically all of these feminine hygiene products that we know and we basically are told to use as a young girl are very toxic for us. And then again, we're placing them in the most absorbent part of our bodies at a very sensitive time. And it creates something like the perfect storm. There's chlorine, there's bleach, there's dioxin, there's all of these synthetic fibers that don't belong in something that goes in a place so sacred, and also to a gateway to your heart, to your brain, to everything that keeps you alive. And so the Robin Danielson Act is basically named after a woman who lost her life of toxic shock syndrome in 1998. And it's basically just for us as women to know what's going in our feminine hygiene products and what the long-term effects it will have on our bodies. Meaning if we use it for 2 weeks, if we use it for 5 weeks, if we use it for 10 years, if it's the only product we've ever used in our life, what is that product doing to our bodies internally? And we as women should have that right, but we don't. And unfortunately, it's because it's a billion-dollar industry, and it's ran primarily by men. It's more cost-efficient for women and young girls to lose lives, lose limbs. This has been an epidemic that has happened even before I was born. And when this happened, I had to dig deep and realize that I was the lucky one. I was the one that actually got away with my life. And there's so many young women and so many women in general that you'll never see, you'll never know, and they lost their chance at living their best life simply because of something that wasn't changed because of money. And this bill has been rejected by Congress 10 times. I've been working with a congresswoman here named Carolyn Maloney, and yes, Carolyn is a boss. And we've been trying to, I met with her actually last year, and she actually sat me down in the office and said, had this bill passed, this probably wouldn't have happened to me. And that was something crazy because you all see me, but how many of those women that we'll never know we lost? I think it's just really, it's crazy. And I think we need to use our voices, and we need to demand safe products, and we really need to get this bill passed so that way we, can just go about our lives and live and not live in fear and use safe products. Like, it's just ridiculous. This doesn't need to be happening, and it shouldn't have happened to me. It shouldn't have happened to many women. So, and I don't want it to happen to anyone else. And it does all the time, every day. There's a 15-year-old girl right now who's fighting for her life. So, this is just something we need to change. So I'm really hoping to do that. Yes, and the statistic, thank you, Diane. The statistic on the back of every tampon box, if you look, it says every girl in 100,000 will get TSS. If you actually break down those numbers, that's 20 girls a day. But no one's going to actually do that math, and these young girls are not going to ask those questions. They're just going to use those products. So it's just being very mindful. If you're ever sick, don't ever use a tampon because your body can't fight two things at the same time. It's just fighting for our rights and getting our voices heard. It's just really important. That's why we're here. So.
And what can people in this room do to help get this bill passed and support this?
Read up on it. I think she's reintroducing it this year. I think we're trying to get as many voices as possible. The crazy thing is that this is not even there's no statistics actually kept. And that's the mind-blowing part, is how is there not that? But it's because it's kind of like a cover-up, you know? If you know, then you want to fix it, but it's kind of like a hidden thing. So just be more aware, and be aware of your bodies and what you're putting inside of them.
Katie, you've done a lot of advocacy for the plus size community, and obviously body positivity has been a huge conversation, and yet, you know, so many retailers haven't woken up to this conversation. I read that it's actually a $20 billion market opportunity that's just up for the taking, but no one's kind of moving on it. So what do you think is the barrier to fashion brands really serving plus size women?
I think it's a dated concept of the fact that, like, only thin people can wear high fashion. High fashion, you aspire to be as thin as you can, and that's what a runway model looks like. That's what you should try to be looking like in your everyday life, is just, you gotta be a size 0 with a thigh gap, and if you're not, then I don't know, you can't participate in the conversation. I also think brands are impatient. They want an instant result. It's so funny. I just found out this brand makes plus clothes that I had no idea, and the reason I had no idea they made them is because they don't talk about it, because they don't think it's cool. I think they're trying to capitalize on that opportunity, the financial opportunity, but they actually don't want to put a body like mine in their social media feed. They don't want to cast someone who's plus size in their ad campaign. So I think it's so interesting how short-sighted brands are with this opportunity, because it's like such a dated, it's very 90s, right? To like, yeah, but like we can't get past it. Also, you said to wear pads. I'm sorry, I'm so into your, you said to wear pads, and that was like very good advice for people, and now I'm just bringing it to you, right, obviously, and don't wear a diva cup.
No, I've always said this, there is no real feminine hygiene product that is 100% safe, and that's why I fight so hard, because you can still get TSS from the Diva Cup, you can still get it obviously from tampons, and honestly, I think it's just nothing is supposed to be up there, to be honest. And I think if you want to be safe, there's something called Thinks, which is period-proof underwear, which are amazing, yes, shout out to them. But yeah, bleach-free pads and Thinks, and that's why I'm saying we gotta fight for this, you know? Like, we gotta have more options and that are safer. So, yeah, good point.
Had to share it, sorry, yeah.
Katie, I also see you have your product in your hand. Do you wanna tell us about Megababe?
It's like the last one, too.
We launched hand sanitizer 3 weeks ago. And it's plant-based alcohol. It doesn't dry your hands out, and we'll be back in stock in 10 days.
I just saw that you still had that in your hand. I was like, maybe she wants
They're
to talk
so,
about it.
I know, I won't go anywhere without it, and you shouldn't either. You can buy it at megababebeauty.com. Yes.
But in 10 days.
But in 10 days, because they're sold out. But get on that wait list. But we make lots of other stuff too, so just go there anyway.
I'm wearing her deodorant right now, and it's doing the trick. So that's good.
Yeah. Aluminum free. We're non-toxic, clean. Yes, girl. Yes. Yeah.
So this is a question for everyone, so we can just go down the line in the way that we've established now. So marginalized communities are often tasked with the weight of advocating and making change for themselves. I would love if each of you could talk a little bit about the role of allyship and what advice you would give to someone that wants to be an ally to your community.
That's a big question. I feel like it's said over and over and over again, but the biggest thing you can do to be an actual ally is just listen. I think make space for people who have fought so long and so hard to tell their stories the way that they so deserve to be told. And so truly the best thing you can do is just be there, listen, and when it comes your time to stand up to, maybe your racist uncle or something like that, take what you've heard from all of these people and don't be afraid to speak up in those conversations. I think another part of allyship is, again, not just listening to marginalized people, but when you're in conversations with people who look just like you, have the same backgrounds, have those tough conversations. Don't be afraid to be the one who talks to your friends head on about things I can guarantee a lot of people aren't talking about. I think that's just as important, is doing the thing that may not be also seen as performative. Like, I think there's a lot of people who just go on, they kind of regurgitate the things that they hear people talking about on Twitter or things like that. It's cool to put the slogan on the t-shirt or things like that, but it's like, don't just perform that, you know? Again, it all comes down to community and conversations and making sure you're having a dialogue and challenging people to be better and stand up in their day-to-day life too. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit?
It's because you're so like deep and
No, I think it's good. It's because you're very present, and so you're really listening to her, and then the question evaporates. That happens to me as well. I wanted to hear about the role of allyship and how you would like to see people be allies to your community and your cause.
Yes, definitely for me, I think it's so empowering to be so accepted by a world that I thought would shun me out, and come back and reinvent myself. I mean, I think it's like my third time now. And to be able to have brands and luxury brands, like Diane, like having me here, and also working with, Adidas and H&M and these brands that are looking to me to kind of trailblaze and be that missing piece and kind of be that representation for anyone. I don't think I just stand for amputees or women. I think I just stand for anyone who's gone through something, anyone who's fought through something. We all have our own journeys, and it's just about seeing other people overcome so much and realizing that you can do the same. It's just you got to do it. And not be as scared of what is the unknown, because the unknown, we all have no idea, but it's about pushing past that and being able to see how much power you actually have. We all have so much power, it's just we don't use it on ourselves, we don't love ourselves enough, we don't believe in ourselves enough, and I think it's just important to remind ourselves that and have people do that for us in entertainment or social media or, on various platforms.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
I always have to follow you, and you're so good.
Yeah, I'll switch the order next time.
That's okay.
Go.
I do TED Talks.
No big.
Maybe literally.
No big deal. When you're shopping, be aware of where you're shopping and check out the size ranges people are offering. And if you've got a friend who's plus size, be aware of her struggles. And sometimes you have to be her voice because she is like, I don't belong. They don't want to dress me anyway. And sometimes you got to be like, hey, this is messed up. Like, this brand needs, use your social media. Like, call people out. I feel like straight size women talking about a need for inclusion is really the thing that really gets brands listening, because they're like, whoa, you're our customer, so if you care, then I guess we'll do it.
You're so funny, by the way.
I know. Very funny. I think each of us have the same problem about the person in front of us, so it's a good problem. It's a great problem to have. It's not even a problem.
Yeah. I mean,
Not
that's like
even a
the
problem.
universal problem,
It's not a problem. It's
Compare and
amazing.
despair. You're all fantastic.
It's a great thing. I think often in terms of the question of being an ally is, do your own research. I get asked all the time, my whole career, like, oh my gosh, we really want to, it's so important, artists of color, women, like, do you know any women who are artists? I'm like,
Oh, man.
yeah, I sure do. And, in contrast to when I first started, I started at the Studio Museum in 2005. There was no social media. Now, it's literally at your fingertips. And I think that the kind of transformational aspect of social media in the art world has been the kind of deep democratization of information and of access to something that was often felt to be kind of over there, to be elitist, to be not available. And so I think I'm like desperately exhausted from the question of, oh my God, we really want to hire a curator of color. Like, do you know anybody? Like, of course I know someone, and I will recommend until I'm blue in the face. It's not that I don't want to do that work, it's that it's actually available. It's there. Yeah. It's literally not a secret. We have supercomputers in our pocket, and they have all that information. So whether that be names of people, whether that be kind of different artists to think about, whether that be concepts, whether that be kind of histories, I think we often assume like, oh, it's an interest in this demographic, but it's actually an interest in culture, in history. People are experts, you know? It's not just like, oh, throw that artist on the wall, like, check, we did our work. There's people who devoted their entire lives to this one person, to this one field, to this one historical moment, and you're learning it today, but they've spent their whole life doing it. So go talk to them, reach out to them through social media, and listen to them as per the previous comments. Listen to them and listen to their expertise, and then apply it in your own arena without asking them to do it all for you.
Do all the labor, right. So each of you are working in different industries and different fields, and I would love to hear from you. What aspect of your industry are you feeling most hopeful about right now, and if there's any specific change that you are hoping to see happen in the near future?
And I start?
Yeah. What makes you hopeful?
Oh gosh. I mean, so many things. I know it may sound a little cliche, but I mean, just even the fact that, again, that someone like me gets to sit here and be a part of these conversations is a huge pinch me moment. And that makes me incredibly, incredibly hopeful for the future, because I think more and more major corporations, brands, titles, they're making space for people who traditionally have not had positions in boardrooms or high up on mastheads or things like that. So that makes me really, really hopeful. The amount of trust that I think emerging creators from diverse backgrounds are given. It's amazing. But I think something else, and I think it comes from my background because I used to work at Refinery 29. I've worked at 17, Teen Vogue. Watching young creators do the work that they're doing on TikTok, Instagram stories, just being so tapped into social media and seeing how you talk about safe spaces, they're creating entire quote-unquote niche publications entirely on their phones. Right. They're taking the photos, doing the videos, doing the research to curate massive amounts of information, and quite frankly, they're giving me a run for, like, I'm looking to them sometimes, and you talk about age difference, like, I'm not far away from them, so seeing the amazing innovative ways in which the next generation is redefining what it means to make media, or what it means to be an activist or an advocate, it's so awe-inspiring. And hire those people, mentor those people, invite them into the rooms that you're in or speaking in or anything like that, because they will absolutely change your perspective and make the work that you're doing even better. So that's something that it floors me every day.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think about at Refinery, just when we've done our most interesting work is when we've really allowed the people that work at Refinery to have their voices be heard and to really kind of run with things and
that's my first job, yeah.
I know.
Full circle.
What's making you feel hopeful right now? Like, what change are you seeing that you feel hopeful
room,
about?
To be honest, like, just the fact that so many women are here, it's so great to see all of you, and just means that you guys want to take charge, and I think that's the first step, that's the first step of our movement, of our change, of our empowerment. I think we're known as being catty and wanting to only be the ones to succeed, but I think we've learned that we have to empower each other in order for us to move forward together. And I think that's such a beautiful thing, and right now it's just very inspiring. So I hope we keep this movement going.
Me too.
Same, yeah, for me, it's just a kind of a shitty follow-up here. I think it's just that retail keeps putting their money where their mouth is and becoming more inclusive.
I'm sorry, I failed you. I said I was going to reverse the order, and then I spaced.
You set me up every time.
But you're still funny.
I'm fired.
Still funny. Hopeful. Sorry, forgot the question. See, you're so funny. You made me forget the question. I think I'm super hopeful that when I just went to the Independent Art Fair on Varick Street before I came here, the Armory Art Fair is happening right now on Pier something on the West Side Highway. And both of those exhibitions kind of are large fairs. Art is for sale. The market is very much involved. There's a huge amount of artists of color represented on the wall. And there are huge amounts of people of color of all ethnicities in the room walking around, watching and seeing the work and participating in this world. And that is really, really, really different from kind of when I first started going to these fairs. And I think there are people who are curatorial assistants, kind of the entry-level job in a curatorial department at the Whitney. We have 5, this is gonna sound bad. We have 5 out of 20 who are people of color. And that's where we are in the art world. And that's amazing. That literally, I was the only one in my same time period. So I'm really hopeful to see the kind of sea change happening at every level, whether that be kind of the professional, kind of internal level of institutions, who's on the wall, who's attending these kinds of specific niche events like the fairs. And the other thing, that makes me very hopeful, but what we don't see is at the very top level. And that is what I really want to see, is that the pipeline doesn't peak at a certain kind of promotion, and then we see the same kind of people as directors of these institutions that we've seen, for the last 150 years. So that's really what I'm interested in moving forward, is how do we kind of continue to penetrate into those upper echelons, and I think that's true of all of our industries. So it's both hopeful, but also a challenge.
Yeah. Wow.
What makes you hopeful? I don't know if I'm allowed to do that.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow, turning the tables. I think a lot of the same things. This type of room makes me hopeful. I think seeing the types of questions that people ask, and the level of awareness sort of shifting, and I think the level of curiosity, and to me, I think what's most important is being open to being taught, and I think that's what that learning and growth mindset is what we all need to have, because we all hold unconscious bias. We all have a lot to learn, and we all have to work together to create the kind of world that I hope and think that we all want to see. And so I feel hopeful when I am in situations where people are open-minded and curious and ask questions and are open to being humbled by the answers. So that makes me hopeful. Also, my daughter makes me really hopeful. We only have a brief moment left, so I'm going to actually just end with a potentially fun question, which is, we'll see, is something that we do at Refinery as a way of getting to know people, but also of sort of uncovering what you might not expect about someone. So I'm going to go in reverse order, like I promised I would before, and I would love if each of you could tell us something that we can't tell about you by looking at you. Actually, it can go in whoever thinks of it first, so I don't put too much pressure on one person.
Can you go first?
Okay, fine. I played every sport. Yeah.
I play 5 different instruments.
Including the drums.
Including the drums. Check it out on Instagram. Shameless plug.
I'm training for the New York City Marathon.
Woo!
Yeah, that's tough though, guys. It's very hard.
I know.
You hate me.
No, we love you. This is a great question. I had a baby 2 months before the Whitney Biennial opened, and I worked on the whole thing pregnant and proved that pregnant women can do literally anything.
Superwoman.
It's okay.
Okay. I had one of the first famous dogs on Instagram.
What?
There it is. Yeah. I did that. Toast.
Who's your dog?
Toast. Toast meets world. Anyone? You saw her get married on Real Housewives? That's me. So there.
An early visitor to Refinery 29, I remember. Yeah. Okay, well, thank all of you. We really appreciate all the work that you do every day, and thanks to everyone here.
Thank you.
And that's